Good evening, friends. Welcome here in the Blavatsky House. We give you tonight a lecture about the Stoa, the Stoic philosophy. And we do that with a purpose, because this January is the last month of the first half of our lecture season. And we decided a few months ago to use the first half year to give you tools you can use in this time of war and turbulence. And we end now this half year with a lecture about how to deal with turbulences. And for some of you, the turbulences are heavier than for others. You can have turbulences in your own life, but when you see what happens in mid-Europe, where from one second to the other you can lose lives, family members, houses, and so on, because another bomb is thrown on houses. So when we look at peace of mind from the Stoic perspective, we do that to help you to build up a life vision by which you are able not only to stay strong in your own life with 2 feet on the ground, but also to be able to help others in horrible situations and situations where they lose their self-control. And that is one of the reasons why this Theosophical Society has been founded, to train yourself to help other human beings and help nature to grow into a higher level of consciousness. And when you say, okay, I put my life in the light of compassion, helping others to rise themselves out of the world of emotions, of passions, of all other turbulences. If you want to train yourself for that, welcome, extra welcome this evening. Why did we choose the Stoa and in 2 weeks the teachings of Lao Tzu? Because they are so clear in just this aspect of the ancient wisdom. They give you so many hints and so many training possibilities in remaining your inner calm and peace, even when the world is in chaos and in a situation of lunacy. They were very good in those teachings. The question is the Stoic philosophy something totally independent of other ways of thinking, of other philosophical schools? And the answer is no, because all philosophical schools, all religions are family, are branches from one and the same tree. The stem and the roots is identical. Only one sage, one wise founder of a religion expresses it in this way and another in another way. But in fact, Buddhism, Hinduism, the Greek philosophies and so on are family. Christianity, Islam, all are family. Their essence is the same, only the outer way of expression is different. Why we choose the Stoa? Because they are very clear and good in explaining to you how you can keep your balance, your inner balance, in difficult times. I hope it is clear that the founder of the Stoa, the Stoic philosophy, Zeno, that he did not invent all the ideas he gave, but he was inspired by Socrates, as inspired by Socrates as Plato was. And Plato had his academy in Athens, and Zeno went from Cyprus to Athens to have his own school there. But he wasn't the only one that was directly and indirectly influenced by Socrates. You had the student of Plato, Aristotle. He also had his own school. And centuries later, you had the Neoplatonic school. One of the best examples of that are Plotinus, you say, Plotinos in Greek. And you see a family. You see from the Platonic Academy going further 4 branches. The Platonic Academy after Plato, Aristotle with his Peripatetic school, Zeno with his Stoic philosophy, and Ammonios Sakkos with the Neoplatonic. And they all knew each other. They all talked to each other. They all discussed with each other, of course, because they all had their own way of expressing the same truth. But Plato was inspired by Pythagoras. And Pythagoras had his education, his inner spiritual education, of course in Greece, but also in Asia and in Egypt. And the basis of that all, you can go further back and further back and further back, and then you have the universal Theosophia, that is the common mother of all those different lines of thinking. Tonight we really focus on the Stoa of Zeno, but now you know Zeno is part of a whole family and not an isolated way of thinking. What can we tell you about that? Zeno started that school, and after him, his successor was Cleanthes, and after him came Chrysippus. And those 3 formed the old Stoic school. And then you have the middle school with also wise leaders of the school. Panetius and Posidonius were 2 of them. And while Zeno, Cleanthes and Chrysippus worked in Athens, the middle Stoa, so Panetius and Posidonius, did not give so many new theories and teachings, but they took the school from Athens to Rome, because the Roman Empire, the Roman influence became stronger than the Greek at that time. And the Roman emperors, especially the emperors, asked the Stoic philosophers in Athens, come to Rome and teach us, and they did. And later, you have the late Stoa, and the late Stoa three important names are there. First of all, Marcus Aurelius. And I can really advise you, read his little booklet, Discussions with Myself, Meditations. And next to Marcus Aurelius was Seneca. He was also very good in explaining the ideas to others. And Epictetus was the third one. And now I have to give you a personal impression. When I was in school, I loved the Greek philosophy, but I was very... it was a distaste. It was really horrible what we had to study about the Roman Empire. At that time, a human life was nothing at all. And I give you an example. There were 176 emperors after Julius Caesar. And Julius Caesar was not a very wise person. After him, 176 emperors, of which 95 were killed, were murdered, or committed suicide. And in that really immoral time, the late Stoa philosophers, Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, and Epictetus, had to do their job. Seneca was ordered by his pupil, his student, Emperor Nero, to commit suicide, and he did. And Marcus Aurelius, as an emperor, was forced to fight, to let his soldiers fight all over Europe, and he was killed in that fight. And Epictetus was banished from Rome and had to go to Greek again, otherwise he would have been killed as well. So when we complain that our situation is so stressful and so immoral and so full of turbulence, let us look at that horrible time in the later Roman Empire and ask ourselves, how could those three Stoic philosophers be so wise as they were in such a hell, such a living hell? And they were wise, and that makes that we can decide to stop complaining and see how they led their lives. And it makes your vision of life different, because so many people were in a more horrible situation than we would ever be. So, we also have a new Stoa, and that started with the Renaissance. In the Renaissance, Ficino led the Platonic Academy in Florence. And he followed the Platonic philosophy, but also there was a large group of people who followed the Stoic wisdom. And together, they were the soul of the Renaissance. And in that way also the soul of the Reformation. And in our time, there is a new life in Stoic ideas. They call themselves the New Stoa movement. And I want to talk to you about it, but first I want to explain what Zeno had to give. But in the new Stoic ideas of our time, one person stands out, at least to me, at least to all people in Holland, and that is Etty Hillesum. In the late Stoa you have especially Marcus Aurelius, and in our time you have Etty Hillesum. In Holland she has the same status as Anne Frank, and I don't know whether worldwide people know her, and therefore I have to introduce her. She was a young, very intelligent Jewish woman. She was 25, 27 and so on. And in her time, in the 1930s and 40s, Holland was invaded by the German army, the Second World War. And from that moment on, the Jewish inhabitants of Holland were taken by the German army, and they went to the concentration camps, and they ended in the gas chambers. You know that whole story. I don't have to elaborate that so much. You know what happened. She decided that it was not a very responsible way of living to hide yourself, as so many did, that they fled and lived in cellars, in under roofs and so on, that the German army could not find them. What she did was thinking about her own life, and she decided that the life of others and the happiness of others was more important than her own life. And she decided not to flee from the whole situation, but to go with her Jewish brothers and sisters into the concentration camps to help there, to support everyone. And in the end, she also ended in the gas chambers. But the whole process for her to grow into the fact that she decided to be there for others, she does that in a Stoic line. At the end of the lecture and at the end next week of our study meeting, I can give you the English book titles where you can read her diary. And it is, to me, a deeper diary than the diary of Anne Frank. It is really worthwhile reading that and thinking of it. Okay, now you know who Etty Hillesum is, and I will quote her a few times this evening. How did Zeno work to teach his students? He had 3 lines of education. First, he called it the physics. Second, the logics. And third, the ethics. And what he really meant was, by physics, is the study of nature. And in the first place, the outer nature, the outer part of the great living whole, the all, or however you want to call it, the cosmos. And the logic is inside understanding the logos. And the logos is in fact the living word spoken by the inner ideas, the inner ideation. And that means that the logics are the teachings of the inner part of the universe. So he had the physics and the logics that is the total of the teachings of the universe, and then he had the ethics, and the ethics are all the conclusions you can draw from the knowledge about the inner and outer universe for your own life. For if you grow in wisdom, you will change your choices in life and your character and your moral compass. And that is the third line of the teachings of Zeno. And now we have a problem. For Zeno wrote books about physics and ethics and also about the logics. And none of those books are preserved up to now. But all the students in Greece and Rome knew those books. And the later Stoics in Rome, Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, and Epictetus, wrote booklets and letters, and they gave lectures and they taught their students. And those texts are most of the time the ethic conclusions from the teachings that were lost. So when in the new Stoa people concentrate on the later Stoics, then they concentrate on the ethical consequences from teachings you don't have. And we thought from our theosophical studies that it is better for you to know those teachings so that you can, and I hope to help you with that, that you can draw your own moral conclusions from that. And I hope to start with that tonight, but I hope you will continue in the coming months to find out your own way, and this lecture is a help for that. So we try to build up a teaching vision, a vision of the cosmos, a vision of yourself, to give you the opportunity to draw your own moral conclusions from that. And what are the 5 most important teachings of the Stoics? And I look at the clock, and I think it is time to give you a few minutes, and that we first answer your questions, and then we continue with those 5 important teachings of the Stoics.
Okay, there were no questions so far, so I guess we can continue with the second part. Yeah.
Okay, you have no questions, and that doesn't matter because there is so much more to tell you that we just continue. The 5 great teachings of the Stoics.